Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. mypillow.com, promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in as we have a lot to cover today. The Trump administration announced that it will partially restore SNAP benefits amid the shutdown battle. We have the latest on the Schumer shutdown. By the way, new polling released yesterday shows that Americans are blaming the Democrats for the effects of the month-long Schumer shutdown. And Democrat House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries told reporters that even with millions of Americans facing cuts to food assistance programs, Democrats still aren't ready to end the shutdown. U.S. Representative Nancy Mace is defending herself after being accused of berating and insulting the Charleston Airport Police, saying the incident last week reflected larger failures by the airport's chief executive and its security to protect her. We have the latest of a news conference that Representative Mace had yesterday. Today's election day for many. If you're not sure, go to vote.org and see if you have an election, maybe city council, school board in some cases. There are special runoffs and ballot questions on the funding of new schools, for example. Just be sure and check to see if you need to be headed to your polling place today. Again, just go to vote.org. You'll be asked to put in a little information, and you will be given the information on whether or not you need to vote today.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
There's an important update out of Washington that's worth our attention today, especially for the millions of families who get some type of federal food assistance. Maybe you do, or maybe someone in your family does, maybe an elderly person or a young family. The Trump administration announced yesterday that it will partially resume payments for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, known as SNAP, for the month of November, even as the federal government remains shut down. The move allows several court orders and growing pressure to address the impact of the shutdown on everyday Americans. So let's just break this down. What does this mean, and why does it matter? Well, according to filings in the federal court, the U.S. Department of Agriculture will use $4.65 billion of its $5 billion contingency fund to keep the program running temporarily. That's roughly half of what's needed to cover all benefits for November, we're told, meaning recipients can expect about 50% of their usual monthly assistance. But I guess some is better than none. A senior USDA official, Patrick Penn, told the court that while the administration is moving as quickly as possible, some states could see delays as systems adjust to new funding levels. He said it could take anywhere from a few weeks to up to several months for the reduced payments to be fully distributed, depending on how each state administers its program. Now, when I read that, I'm thinking, well, if it could take a few months or even a few weeks, isn't this sort of defeating the purpose? Because the people who truly need these benefits, they need them now. They need that money in their SNAP account like yesterday. So I guess help's coming, but it may not reach everyone right away. And I'm not sure. I don't quite get that. This decision, of course, comes after two federal judges on Friday ruled that the USDA must use those contingency funds to keep food flowing during the shutdown. U.S. District Judge John McConnell ordered that the money be distributed as soon as possible, noting that funding for the program officially expired November the 1st. The Department of Justice told the court that officials have been working diligently to follow the ruling, even with much of the federal government still closed. Now, in true Trump fashion, the president weighed in personally. He posted on social media, "If we're given the appropriate legal direction by the court, it will be my honor to provide the funding." President Trump had a question, as did his entire administration, on whether or not they could legally use this money. Now, it's a bit scary to know that the Department of Agriculture has a $5 billion contingency fund. They're going to take almost all of it. What if the Department of Ag has another contingency that comes up? What do? Democrat governors, attorney generals from about 25 states filed lawsuits last week accusing the USDA of abandoning families by not using the contingency fund sooner. So, look, we all know that this whole shutdown, Schumer shutdown, is not only an inconvenience, but in some cases, it's really creating some pain for some families. And the food is just part of that. But the Trump administration pushed back, though, on those 25 states, arguing that those funds were originally set aside for emergencies and natural disasters, like hurricanes, floods, wildfires, not to backfill regular entitlement programs during a shutdown to try to prop the Democrats up. So, again, I go back to my question. What happens if we have an emergency and those funds are needed for what they were intended for? Now, the courts ruled their direction was that the USDA release the money immediately. So as a result, the $4.65 billion would go towards a half a month of SNAP benefits, while remaining $350 million in reserve. $350 million is nothing when you look at the overall scheme of things and the overall budget of the USDA. Now, if you want to look at it from a Trump administration perspective, the situation highlights several key points that kind of get lost in the political noise. First, the administration isn't ignoring the human side of the shutdown. They're taking measured legal steps to minimize disruption that's being caused by the Democrats. And rather than writing blank checks or bypassing Congress to fund programs indefinitely, I mean, they're trying to get some things done with their hands tied behind their back. Second, this is a real-time example of fiscal responsibility, I think. Instead of draining emergency funds entirely or setting a precedent for executive overreach, the Trump administration sought judicial approval before spending the taxpayer money. And then finally, this reminds us that shutdowns have consequences, not just for Washington bureaucrats, but for real people. When government funding runs out, agencies can't operate as normal, and every decision becomes a balancing act between compassion, accountability. And that's what we're seeing here. Keep in mind, this shutdown has stretched over 30 days now, started October the 1st, making it the second longest in U.S. history. It's the result of a stalemate between Republicans who want long-term fiscal reform and Democrats who are demanding new spending and extended Obamacare subsidies as part of any deal to reopen the government. So the partial SNAP payments are really a temporary fix if you look at in the broader scheme of things. The question Republicans are asking is this: how do we help those in need today without burdening future generations with unsustainable debt tomorrow? I mean, that's the big challenge, and that's why this matters. That's why we have to take a nice, long look at this whole situation. Another angle here that's worth noting is that the president's broader Big Beautiful Bill includes reforms to SNAP and other entitlement programs. I mean, we know that there's a lot of fraud in this program. Those reforms that are in the Big Beautiful Bill aim to tighten eligibility requirements, strengthen work incentives for able-bodied adults, and reduce that fraud, all while keeping support in place for families who need help. I'm not opposed to helping people who legitimately need help, as long as they're American citizens. There's evidence that a lot of non-citizens are getting these benefits as well. So even as the administration works to keep food assistance flowing during the shutdown, the bigger picture remains focused on long-term reform, how we protect ourselves in the long term and not short-term gain, and just in response to the Democrats. Politically, this move may take some pressure off of the White House as far as taking the judge's order and moving forward with it, because again, we've seen more pushback this past week as a result of the potential shutdown of SNAP than any pushback we've seen since the beginning of this shutdown. The bottom line is Chuck Schumer needs to reopen the government. He needs some of his Democrats, and maybe after today's elections, we'll see that happen. Let's be honest, those summer vacations and backyard barbecues added some extra pounds, right? But instead of feeling guilty or falling further behind, it's time to reset, drop the weight, and get back in control. The solution isn't a shot. Real lasting weight loss starts with your mind, not your mouth. At PhD Weight Loss, Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team help you uncover the real reasons behind your weight gain so that you can reprogram the way you think about food forever. PhD clients lose up to a third of their body weight without ever taking a drug. I know, because I lost 33 pounds with PhD weight loss. Through real food, behavioral coaching, and proven science, your body can become a natural fat-burning machine. Why risk spending thousands on shots that strip away muscle, come with dangerous side effects, and leave most people regaining 60% of the weight within a year? With PhD, you'll activate your body's natural appetite control, burn fat safely, and stay in control. Even if you're already on Ozempic, PhD can help you transition off while still losing weight. Take the first step today. Call 864-644-1900 or visit myphdweightloss.com. While we're talking about the government shutdown, I want to spend a few more minutes on that today. We're now well past 1 month into Schumer shutdown. What is this, like day 35, I think? The political stalemate in Washington is showing no signs of breaking. And today, the headline comes straight from the House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who told reporters that even with millions of Americans facing cuts to food assistance programs, Democrats still aren't ready to end the shutdown. He's just not interested yet. It's more politically important to him to keep the game going, to keep standing up to the Republicans, than to temporarily fund SNAP or some of the other programs that the Republicans have said, okay, let's just fund these programs. We can talk about the others later. So let's just get the facts straight here. The shutdown has now stretched into week 5. Closing federal offices, halting non-essential programs, straining everything from airport security to food assistance now. And perhaps the most personal impact for many Americans came November the 1st, when the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, as we've been talking about, officially lapsed for the first time. When you start talking about these types of benefits, what was just something that was in a news headline before becomes real for a lot of families. That program, it roughly serves 42 million Americans, including seniors, low-income families, and children who rely on federal aid to buy groceries. Now, the Trump administration, as mentioned, under orders from a federal judge, has moved to release half payments for November using a $5 billion contingency fund that will roughly cover about 50% of the benefits. Now, there is suggestion that could take weeks, if not months, for it to happen, since it's the funding is different and only half of it's going to go out. So this is a serious issue. I get that. And it's gotten a lot of people's attention. But I get back to what I've said many times. I don't want any children going hungry. I don't want a grandmother or a grandfather to go. I don't want anybody to go hungry. But what I do want is to make sure that these benefits are getting to the people who deserve them. I got a text message from a regular listener over the weekend, or maybe yesterday, who was just blown away by that number, 42 million Americans. And I thought about her text, Jennifer. And she's right. Jennifer was raising the question of why we have 42 million Americans on a food program. It's kind of unreal, isn't it? So it makes you stop and think, do we really have 42 million Americans on the program? Or, like some of the reports, are there a lot of illegals in that number? Are there a lot of non-Americans receiving benefits? Maybe we have 42 million recipients, but are they all Americans? And if they are Americans, do they really qualify? Do they really need these programs, or are they taking advantage of this program, taking advantage of our tax dollars? Speaking to reporters on Capitol Hill yesterday, Democrat leaders blamed Republicans, President Trump in particular. Hakeem Jeffries said this is an intentional, vicious choice. He said not a single American should go hungry, not a single American, and it's the fault of Republicans that is happening in this country right now. Well, let me correct him on that. Republicans have voted in favor of reopening the government. His party, the Democrats, have voted 13, 14 times now to keep the government closed. So he's wrong there. When asked directly if Democrats would vote for the House-passed Republican continuing resolution, the temporary spending bill that would reopen the government, keep the benefits flowing, Jeffrey said no. Did not even debate it, did not even consider it. It was a quick no. He accused the Trump administration of hypocrisy, claiming that they found $40 billion to bail out their right-wing dictator wannabe friend in Argentina, but couldn't find money to fund SNAP. Strong words, but also a revealing admission. Even with food aid on the line, even with 42 million Americans facing reduced or delayed benefits, the Democrat leadership is digging in. They're refusing to vote on the only bill that would end the shutdown immediately. Republicans in Congress, they pushed this clean continuing resolution, a short-term funding bill that would have kept the government open through November the 21st. It looks like it's going to be closed through the rest of the month at the rate we're going now. This could become the longest shutdown in our nation's history. Democrats, led by Mr. Jeffrey and, of course, Chuck Schumer, are insisting on a deal that includes the expanded Obamacare subsidies. I'm so tired of hearing about Obamacare subsidies and this particular type of subsidy. Republicans, of course, say that the subsidies have become another expensive entitlement, costing taxpayers billions of dollars. Democrats say they're protecting Americans' health care. So where are we? The standoff continues. While programs like SNAP, the military payroll, and even air traffic control funding hang in the balance, we've got the Democrats digging in for political gain, or what they perceive as political gain. I think it's going to end up biting them. I think, and look, today with Election Day around the country, we got some governor's races out there. Democrats may realize this is really the ultimate poll on whether or not people are blaming Democrats. If we see some of the key Democrat races for governors, particularly around the country, if they lose today, I think we're going to have the answer to that question, that the American people are, in fact, putting the blame where it is deserved. Now, for Republicans, as far as the fiscal responsibility and governing by the rules of the federal government, the Constitution is very clear. Only Congress can appropriate money. That means the president and his administration can't just move billions around from one program to another every time there's a political impasse. That's why President Trump has said repeatedly that while he's sympathetic to the families, and if the courts allow him to do so, he'll feed them immediately, but that he doesn't feel like he has the authority to do so. President Trump also pointed out that Democrats' refusal to compromise is hurting the very people they claim to champion, but that's typical, isn't it? Democrats claim that they are championing the working families, the single parents, the seniors, and the veterans, but yet they do things like this shutdown that hurt them the most. and it just goes right over their head. They don't even recognize it. They don't even realize the pain that they're causing. Continuing today's show, according to Newsmax, a top staffer at the Heritage Foundation has resigned following Heritage Foundation President Kevin Roberts' defense of Tucker Carlson after he generated controversy over interviewing an anti-Semitic white nationalist. Did you hear about this kind of brush up last week? We talked about it a bit as I was in Israel last week. A Heritage spokesperson confirmed that Ryan Newhouse, who was Mr. Roberts' chief of staff, has left his position at this very important and influential right-wing think tank, the conservative Heritage Foundation. This is according to a story in The Hill yesterday. Ryan was not fired, they said. He offered his resignation, which was accepted. Ryan is a good man. We appreciate his service, and we have no doubt we will serve in the movement, or he will serve in the movement in another capacity, according to a spokesperson with the Heritage Foundation. Mr. Newhouse had been ardently defending Roberts on social media following the backlash to a video where Roberts posted defending Mr. Carlson after he conducted an interview with Nick Fuentes. In the interview, Carlson said Republican supporters of Israel were seized by this brain virus. While Fuentes, who has a history of anti-Semitic comments, said organized Jewry is what is keeping the country divided. Fuentes is a bad guy. Now, you can say that he has a right to freedom of speech to say these things, but it has been kind of puzzling on why Tucker Carlson has been somewhat defending this guy. In a video posted last Thursday, I think it was, Heritage's Robert said Carlson would always be a close friend of the Heritage Foundation. He said, quote, Christians can critique the state of Israel without being anti-Semitic. Of course, anti-Semitism should be condemned. The venomous coalition attacking him are sowing division, Roberts said. Their attempts to cancel him will fail. Now, while saying he disagreed with and abhorred things that Fuentes said, he said canceling him was not the answer. Roberts' video prompted backlash from a lot of prominent conservatives, including Senators Mitch McConnell and Ted Cruz. McConnell wrote on social media, the intellectual backbone of the conservative movement is only as strong as the values it defends. Last I checked, conservatives should feel no obligation to carry water for anti-Semites and apologists for America-hating autocrats. But maybe I just don't know what time it is, McConnell said. Senator Cruz took shots at Carlson while speaking at the Republican Jewish Coalition's annual summit in Las Vegas last week. Cruz said, if you sit there with someone who says Adolf Hitler was very, very cool and that their mission is to combat and defeat global Jewry, and you say nothing, you are a coward, he said, and you are complicit in that evil, according to Ted Cruz. In a follow-up post on X, Mr. Roberts said he condemned Fuentes' vicious anti-Semitic ideology, his Holocaust denial, and his relentless conspiracy theories that echo the darkest chapters of history. He said, we're disgusted by his musings about rape, women, child marriage, and abusing his potential wife. Roberts said Fuentes' anti-Semitism was explicit, dangerous, and demands our unified opposition as conservatives. He is fomenting Jew hatred, and his incitements are not only immoral and unchristian, they risk violence, Roberts said. But he continued to defend his right to say it, I guess. In the end, he said, join us, not to cancel, but to guide, challenge, and strengthen the conversation, and be confident, as I am, that our best ideas at the heart of Western civilization will prevail. So basically, hey, let's just try to convert the guy. I don't know that that's possible, if you know anything about Nick Fuentes. Hey, heads up, disturbing new intelligence out of South Texas. The Border Patrol's Rio Grande Valley sector warned agents about a coordinated cartel plot offering $10,000 for anyone who shoots at Border Patrol, and attackers may be disguising themselves in Mexican military uniforms to avoid detection, according to the report. Initial targets, Brownsville and Kingsville stations. Now, this adds more fuel to the fire when it comes to our brave men and women who serve as Border Patrol. It's a dangerous job. Some people think, well, they're just down there, at the gates to the country. No big deal. But if this is true and they're offering $10,000, there's somebody across the river with a long gun trying to shoot you. And that's the atmosphere that you have to go to work in as a Border Patrol agent. I mean, and this isn't random chatter. It tracks with recent DHS intel that cartels are running a tiered bounty system, doxing, assaults, and even hits on senior officers, payouts rising as much as $50,000 for assassinations. Homeland Security officials say that their agents are under siege, subject to ambushing, surveilled by drones, and now literally bought off to be attacked. That's an attack on the rule of law and on Americans doing a dangerous job to keep you and me and our border safe. If Washington won't fund the mission, at least back the people on the line. We'll continue to watch this story, but look, if someone is caught shooting at a Border Patrol agent, I hope the Trump administration will send whatever backup, whatever support is needed down there to make them pay. Hey, do you ever you have a smart TV? Most everybody does. I mean, that's about the only thing you buy now. Nana Hudson's TV that she had for probably 25 years went out a year or so ago, and you can't buy just a simple TV anymore. So, the TV that I was able to buy for her, it's a smart TV. It doesn't have all of the features that some have, but still there's certain things on it that require a little bit of finesse. And sometimes it gives her a hard time. But those smart TVs are more than just TVs. Do you ever feel like maybe it's listening to you? Well, you're not paranoid. You may just be right. Most people don't realize that nearly every new, quote, smart TV, whether it's a Samsung, an LG, a Sony, or whatever brand, includes built-in microphones that can capture sound even when you think voice commands are turned off. That means your private conversations, family discussions, even the late-night political rant in your living room could, in theory, be being picked up, listened to by your TV's microphone. You ever think sometimes that ads come up after you've talked about a certain product or a certain need for something? These microphones are designed to make your life more convenient, according to the manufacturers. They power voice search, assistants like Alexa, Google Assistant, Samsung's Bixby. You can tell your TV to play a show, check the weather, or control volume without picking up the remote. But you got to stop and think. If the TV hears you when you say, hey, play some TV show, it hears everything you're saying. And if that makes you a little bit uneasy, you're not alone. Millions of Americans are starting to ask the same question. Who's really listening? And what are they doing with that data? When I say something about a product, who's getting that information? Now, the good news is protecting your privacy only takes a few minutes, according to some of the manufacturers. You can turn this off in some of the settings. I did a little research on my own, and many smart TVs, especially the newer ones, include a small hardware switch that completely disables the internal microphone. Now, you're not going to be able to ask it to play certain shows, so there's a balance there, which is more important. But this built-in mic may be labeled just that, built-in mic, or it could just have a mic icon. Some of the research I saw for Samsung TVs, and Samsung is sort of my TV of choice, that switch is often found along the bottom right edge when you're facing the screen. Other brands like LG, Sony may place it on the side or in the bezel. Just Google it. So, and you can disable, according to the reports, you can disable that microphone on your TV settings. Now, turning off your TV's microphone, again, doesn't mean giving up all your smart features in some cases. Some of the remotes have a push-to-talk button, meaning that the mic only activates when you physically press the button. So in some cases, you might still be able to take advantage of those voice commands, but not have the mic listening to you 24/7. So what does it mean for you? Why did I bring this up? Well, protect your privacy. Doesn't have to be complicated. In less than about 5 minutes or so, you can take control of your smart TV's microphone and maybe just increase your privacy just a bit. Because let's be honest, digital privacy, it's not just about data. It's about freedom. It's about protecting your privacy in your own home. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. Well, it was another exciting day in the Nancy Mace gubernatorial campaign. U.S. Representative Nancy Mace is defending herself after reportedly berating and hurling insults at Charleston Airport Police. She's saying that the incident last week reflected larger failures by the airport's chief executive and its security to protect her. The Low-Country Congresswoman held a news conference yesterday morning and really doubled down on her claim that the airport has treated her unfairly and that they have put her in potential danger. Ms. Mace has been accused of using the F-bomb while confronting the airport police last week. Here's her response.
I am not going to be the next person shot and killed in cold blood. I take my safety of myself, of my children, of my family, of my employees very seriously. On average, I receive over 1,300 credible threats a year. That is not an exaggeration. It's actually a very conservative estimate and is likely far higher than that. We receive so many credible threats, we simply cannot keep up with them. Last Thursday morning, I absolutely 100% confronted the airport employees who put my safety at risk. Did I drop an F-bomb? I hope I did. Did I call them incompetent? If I didn't, they absolutely earned it. And so today, I want you to know that the press, you guys in the fake news, have omitted many details, and by doing so, you are lying to the people about what actually has transpired here. I have had over 24 security breaches at the Charleston International Airport so far this year. We haven't even made it a full year yet, and I have personally had over 24 security breaches at this airport.
Look, she doesn't seem to be ashamed of dropping the F-bomb. Her defense came just a few days after Charleston International Airport Police released an incident report that detailed the confrontation that she referenced, in which she reportedly directed profane language at police officers using the F word. The blow-up apparently began when Miss Mace arrived at the airport for this early morning flight. There was supposed to be a prearranged curbside security escort. It wasn't there. The people weren't there to meet her, according to her, and according to the security footage that was released. She definitely got out of the car and went in by herself. According to her office, she had requested an escort based on the multiple threats that she has received as a member of Congress. Video of her arrival shows her walking towards the building, again alone. It earlier showed her getting out of a car alone. In 3 written accounts from airport police in the aftermath, they reported Mace loudly calling officers effing incompetent and quoting her as saying, "This is no way to treat a effing U.S. representative." When asked whether she had reacted similarly to other security issues at the airport, Representative Mace confirmed she had expressed frustration to an officer in the past 2 months. She reiterated that any harsh words directed at airport police for failing to perform their duties is justified. She also went on Morning with Maria on Fox Business and again defended her actions.
There are reports that you were involved in a heated confrontation with airport police and TSA agents at the Charleston International Airport Thursday. You posted this on X. TSA wouldn't let me through. So what happened?
I want to be very clear here. We saw last year 2 assassination attempts on President Trump. Just a few weeks ago, we all witnessed as Charlie Kirk was assassinated right before our eyes in public. We've seen that Steve Scalise years ago was shot, 4 or 5 times. And in the political environment we have today, there's no room for error when it comes to security. I have at this particular airport and no other. This is the only airport where I have any issues, but my children have had issues here, my employees, but we have had over 24 security breaches at this particular airport just 11 months into this year today. I've been in 4 airports in the last 5 days without incident. So yes, I did confront those who did not show up to do the job. My safety was put at risk. I have had incidences at airports. I had an incident in Chicago earlier this year where a man followed me through the airport, and the Chicago airport security was very swift to ensure that I was safe and get that individual out of there. I had other incidences where someone tried to physically have an altercation with me at one of the D.C. airports. I'm grateful to the Capitol Police for stepping in, but this is a serious issue, and mediocrity when it comes to airport security and security breaches will not be tolerated when I'm governor and not when I'm in Congress for nobody.
But so why wouldn't they let you through? That's the part that I'm not quite understanding here. What was the reason?
Well, they did let me through. I was let through.
Okay,
yeah, no, I was let through. Right. But there's a federal process under TSA rules that require federal officials to have law enforcement personally escort us through the crew member line. So there's a process. I waited patiently. I asked for assistance from TSA. They were very helpful. And so we did it eventually. But, you know, what the Charleston Airport did was also release details about the vehicle that I was dropped off at, putting my safety at risk on Thursday. They released details on where I get dropped off at the airport by releasing video. It's all scary for an individual. I have more than 1,300 death threats a year. And so I take my security very, very seriously. I don't want to be the next person that gets shot and killed.
And and to be clear, other elected officials have used that crew member line and
all
so
the time.
So this is why. So maybe you're feeling you were maybe targeted by these agents and it was unfair.
Oh, I absolutely have been targeted at this airport. But thank you for asking. I appreciate it.
Okay, Congresswoman Nancy Mace, thank you for explaining that. We really appreciate it. It's great to see you as always. Thank you for being here.
Now, as you know, Ms. Mace is not just a member of Congress. She's also a candidate for governor. She has announced that she is seeking the Republican nomination for the Palmetto State's next governor. Attorney General Alan Wilson, who's also a candidate, demanded that Mace issue an apology. He called her behavior dangerous, entitled, and beneath the dignity of public office. Lieutenant Governor Pamela Abbott, another rival for governor, took her criticism of Mace to social media, writing, "Attacking and shaming law enforcement because you can't manage your time properly, provide accurate information so people can keep you safe is why people are tired of what you're selling." So you tell me, is if you hear a candidate for any office, forget that it's governor, but particularly governor, using this type of language, and she hasn't denied. In fact, you heard her in that news conference saying if she didn't, she should have, using the F word. Does this make you think a little bit differently on whether or not you would support a candidate if they use this type of language? Text me, email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY. I'd really love to get your feedback on this because personally, I don't like to hear people using that type of language anyway, but especially an elected member, a member of the U.S. House of Representatives. And I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, even more so, a female U.S. representative. Now, I know some of you are saying, well, it shouldn't make a difference. And you're right, it shouldn't. But for some reason, to hear a female particularly using that type of language and confronting someone like that, behaving, and this is not the first time. I mean, you remember the person in the pharmacy a few months ago that Mace just confronted and also was using language? I don't know. You tell me. Let me hear from you. That's it for today's show. Tara's up next, followed by Mike Gallagher, Bill Frady, Charlie James. We're back again tomorrow at 5 a.m. for your first cup of coffee in Sunrise, Carolina. Until then, folks, remember, God's got this. He's still in control. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.